Hello and welcome back to the channel. It's Mark from PowerSonic and Apprentice 121. You will see behind me here another GivEnergy system. This is a gateway and all-in-one. We've also got this Proteus consumer unit up there that we've popped in. This is in the garage area where the customer is starting to work cables back to for additions within the property. We're going to go through the entire install. There's no solar PV on this yet, but there is going to be some, point my finger the right way, over there at some stage in the future. If you are a customer and you're looking to get battery storage or solar PV and you've got a slightly challenging install that perhaps some of the larger energy retailers might walk away from or not even propose for, please do get in touch. Even if you've got a run-of-the-mill, bog standard solar PV battery storage system that you need on your home, we're here to help you, so please do get in touch. My contact details, the business's contact details are in the description alongside this video. We get loads of inquiries every week through YouTube content and I'm really grateful for that. So wherever you are, get in touch and we'd be happy to help. Without further ado, let's get into this install and take a look through exactly what we're up to.
So you can see we've got our pea gravel in the bottom, if you can see that. Nice 600 deep. This is the 5-core cable feeding down to the garage. You see the guys just working it over to that corner. We'll show you the route once it's in. But we have also got some more pea gravel to overlay around it, and then obviously the warning tape and sand on top, so we can know that it is well protected in there. So you can see the first bed of tape going in with the gravel, pea gravel over the top. We'll then put another row of sand on with more tape as well, just to give the best prospect of anybody discovering this. So the guys are just wrapping it as they go, covering it with a pea gravel, and then once we've got it to the top of the cable in pea gravel, we will put some sand on and some more warning tape. And now we're putting the first bed of sand on the top. As you can see, Matt has just put that down, and we're going to put another run of warning tape over the top of that. See, Nathan's already popped that in down there on top of the sand, and then we'll bed that up with more sand again, and then we can put another run of warning tape over. So that has got as much prospect of never been hit as possible. So that's the second run of warning tape bedded in. We're just going to backfill this up now with the rest of the sand to give it a bit of depth on top, and a final layer of warning tape. So there's 3 layers of that to go through. Hopefully people would notice before they hit the cable. So you've got the top layer of warning tape, good 100 mil of sand underneath that, then warning tape, a little bit more sand and pea gravel, and then a final layer of warning tape over the top of the cable. And fingers crossed that would stop anybody ever digging into it. It's going to be under a paved area anyway in the end, but you know, while we've got access, we might as well make a nice job of it. And that's it, bedded in nice. We're just dropping a final layer of warning tape on just on the top, but that's a nice bed of pea gravel, and then a bed of sand, loads of tape, cable well protected, and we're going to cleat that up and over now. Customers eventually having the drive done, and it's possible it may end up buried, but for the minute, with the work they've got going on with this stench pipe and stuff, they've asked for it just to come up across, and then we're going in. You can see in here we're setting out our concrete boards where we're going to do our inverter, all-in-one, gateway, garage consumer unit. You see we've got all the Proteus gear here ready to go for the switch fuse inside the house, new consumer unit down the garage, and then the M2 isolators and such. But I'll show you that coming together as we put it onto the wall. Maybe try and do a little time lapse of this lot going up.
Okay, so let's have a look at a time lapse of this setup, and you can see we're starting with the bracket for the gateway, and we're using the illuminated Klein Tools level for that. Important to get this all square and straight because it's really obvious by eye if not. So we've got the gateway secured back with its retaining screws as well, and we're just deciding where the trunking's going to live. This trunking comes with pre-drilled holes in the back of it, which is handy. It's a bit overkill, I think, in the number of fixings, but they were there, so why not use them? We get that nicely secured back, and it is 50 by 100. I've just commandeered Matthew to help hold the consumer unit up. He's got that extra long reach, so it comes in handy. And getting the all-in-one secured back to the wall. It does carry its weight on its own feet, and they are just to hold it back so it's not going to fall over. We've now got the M2 rotary isolators. These are 63 amp rated. They're the absolute business. I love them, and there's 2 of those. One is for the solar PV inverter, and one is for the all-in-one itself. So we're just getting the holes into the trunking in the right place, making sure we've got the right knockouts in the rotary isolators set, so we can bring our cables neatly through the containment into the isolators and then off to the equipment.
So we're just popping those in and getting them set into position, and that's all done now. So we can move on over to lining up the entry to the trunking off the gateway. So there's going to be cables leaving the gateway that drop into the trunking to then run off to where it is needed. And I've done this varying ways in the past where we've had no containment and we've just done it bare on the wall. We've had it running through trunking, and there's no real right or wrong to any of it. It's just whatever feels right at the time. We have swapped to using color-coded data cables, so we're using green for cables that run over to the batteries, yellow for the solar, and brown for the inverter, depending on if they're carrying CT data or comms. And you see we're just popping the Proteus RCBO into the gateway up there for the EV charge point. So we're using some lugs because they go on the terminals. I'll show you those a bit closer up if I haven't already in this video, so you can have a look at that. But it's pretty straightforward to wiring in. The neutral fly lead goes off onto the terminal, and then you put a little line linking wire in from that point as well to the underside of the RCBO. And obviously your final circuit drops into the top of it as normal. Couple of blanks that go in there just to fill the space, which would be to house a meter on a double pole RCD as opposed to just the single module from Proteus. And then we're just popping some of the RCBOs into this board here. These are bidirectional type A. As I say, for all intents and purposes, they're double pole, and just neatly wiring that as best I can, making sure we're level. Big shout out to Proteus for sending me some blanks out. I couldn't see them on the city's website, so I contacted them and they helped me out with some drop to site the very next morning, which was incredible. You can see our submain's put through the wall there, so the guys have got that down, and we're going to run that over into the gateway as well. Just getting a few pictures, catching up with some emails. That's always the way it goes when you're trying to run a business and out on site. Just directing Matthew with where I would like him to bring this steel wire armour down to, because it saves getting any steps out. The kid can reach the ceiling. It comes in handy. You can see him there just helping Nathan mark out his trunking, and then he's going to cleat up this steel wire armour across the top and over and into the gateway. And we'll have a chat about exactly what that's doing in other parts of the video, but you can just see him neatly dressing that away, and he's going to tuck it round in and under onto the gateway so it can be wired up inside. You see he's got that into position now, just popping a little bend on, and he'll strip it out and get it in and landed in, ready for wiring. So you can see I'm starting to use the HO7 cable now, and this is where we're going to link all the cables from the gateway to the appropriate isolators. Nathan's just trying to put me in the eye with a tape measure. I'm not sure what he was measuring there, but I'm sure it served a good purpose. This is the all-in-one cable, so that's going to run over to the all-in-one isolator. We keep it in its insulation through the trunking, so we've got that in place. And we've got all of the voltages for all of these cables are rated to at least 300 volts, so they're all suitable for being in that location. We're just wiring those away, obviously ferruled the ends because these are extra fine stranded cables, and we don't want any loose stray strands even in a cage connection. It can happen, so as long as you ferrule appropriately, it's a good way of ensuring a reliable, long-lasting connection. And you can see the cables there on show. We're trying to keep those neat and tidy as possible. As I said, sometimes I do these without any containment, sometimes we use it. It felt like a good fit here because we've got a bit going on in terms of the consumer unit where there's cables going up to that. I didn't want absolutely everything out on show, and a bit of trunking hides away some of the messy stuff. So you can see we've got that into position, and we're just working on getting the cables connected in to the gateway itself. With the steel wire armour, we've got the grid coming down and the return back to the house consumer unit, as we'll talk about in other parts of the video. We have also got our tails running off to the consumer unit in the garage. We've got our EV circuit here, which I'm just working on with Nathan. He's going to stab a hole through the wall. The EV charger just literally lives just outside this garage here. You can see he did a good job of exploding that brick, but we'll repair that with mortar as well. And that just quickly drops out through the trunking, and then we're going to clip that up along the blockwork to the outside location as neat and tidily as possible. And he's just widening that hole out, and we're about good to go on that one. So that's the EV charger in, and we can get that wired up and away as well, closing up the gateway as we go. So you can see we've got the main intake sorted now. Metering company have been. I'm putting a smart meter. Also got a tails isolator, which was nice to see. And we've brought our submain in down here. I'll show you outside in a sec. But basically it runs up into this switch fuse. We still need to cleat it, tidy up the earth in a little bit as well. But yeah, basically got our submain coming off this switch fuse. So I'll explain how this works. We've got the grid connection coming in, which runs over into this Proteus switch fuse, goes into the main switch there, goes down from the main switch through this separate fuse, which is 80 amps, and
and then that takes us off to the garage for the grid input to the gateway. The load return then comes back through the switch fuse and into this consumer unit. So the steel wire armour down there is serving 2 rows. However, you've got the, to have this in a safe state, the isolation would still need to be made from both ends, regardless if you're using 1 or 2 cables. So it didn't make a difference in that regard for me for 2 circuits in 1 cable, even though it's steel wire armour, and technically you can do it with the right labelling and such. I'm happy with that. We've done it in a few applications now. I played around with it in my own mind, and I think that's okay. But you can see here with the service head, the DNO are absolutely fine with this in the condition it's in. We did ask them to take a little look at it, but you see it's sort of a conversion between what would have been TNS and TNCS. So you can see here we've got a little strap coming up off the sheath, and then we've got a loop out the neutral into the earth block. We've then got the earth running off to the consumer unit. We've got our earth electrode, which is going off to outside, which I'll show you, and then we've got our earth coming up into the switch fuse, which then also gives us the earth running back to the gateway as well. So we've got our off-grid earthing sorted through there, which connects into main earthing system and then takes things off to the gateway. So we've got that covered. We need to tidy up in here. It's a bit of a mess. We've been rushing around doing all sorts, which I'll show you in a minute. And as I said, the consumer's working away from here back to the new consumer unit in the garage. So in the end, this will at some stage most likely become redundant. But for now, we are well covered. The system's now commissioned. So I'll take you outside and show you the cable route and the electrode out there, and then we'll have a look at an electric boiler as well that the customers had installed and take you through some of that. But let's go to the garage. I'll just quickly whip you up. You can see we've been getting spoilt by the customer. Many thanks to Simon and his good wife for sorting us out with these cakes and snacks. Much appreciated as always. Commission's all been done. I've just been taking the customer through the system. I don't know if I can get through to their actual inverter. See if I can go back and forwards, figure this out. Here we go. Let's have a look at the dashboard. And you can see there's no solar on this one, but we've got the consumption. The battery's discharging, it's at 0%, so it's doing its last little bit before it ramps up to a full charge. Matt is just in the plant room sorting out the wiring for the system. And you can see we've got the electrode in, disc down, and as always that's for the referencing island mode for your generating sets that we need to have. Bombs of TNS, we'll have a chat about that in a bit. See, we've got our motor in, so we're all covered up, and in here we've got our stable lights showing all connected, happily working, and we're doing our thing in terms of export and import to the grid. Not energised this consumer unit yet, because as I say, Matt is out there working, but this ties off there as well. So you see the steel wire armour comes in, runs up and under, into the grid switch, then runs up into all the clever electronics, down through the load, which is connecting in this consumer unit here, and the consumer unit back at the house. So we say with these ABBs having 2 terminals underneath, very handy for such applications. And we've got our EV charger with the Proteus bi-directional RCBO in place, type A, 30 milliamp. PV is yet to be energised, but it is wired in down to its little isolator here. And we've got the AIO up at the top there, powered, doing its thing. And these are type A, 30 milliamps ABBs as well. HO7 cables coming out. We've got our CAT cable, we've got our bonds onto the inverters that are needed. They're all in the trunking, ready to be added onto the solar PV inverter. Final circuits running up and away across into the house that way as well. And as I say, this can be built upon into the future. So that's there. The charge point's all wired. It needs a bit of a clean up because we've just been messing on tidying up the top of the steel wire armour. So we're going to get some wipes on this and tidy it up. But you've got your RIFID tags on here for activation. You can do plug and go, you can do cloud sync. If you want to stop the house battery discharge into the vehicle, you need to make sure you move the toggle across and that you are on cloud inverter control or through a metered setup in the gateway. Otherwise it won't do that. So we've got that sorted. I'll take you back inside. You can see the electric boiler that the plumbers have been on with. So we've had no part of this. We've kind of inherited the wiring of it, which we wasn't intending to have to do. But we've got our feed down here, which is 10mm, 50 amp circuit, and we've got the cable running off to the inverter itself. I think it draws 38 amps. Need to check that. This is the little wiring hub that comes with it, and you've basically got live, neutral and earth, which connects off the electric boiler itself. You can see that's where it brings its live, neutral and earth into this little control hub, which sits on there. So it's Tepeo and a little comms, and then it takes power off to your wiring centre from that, so your live, neutral and earth, which has to go through a 3 amp spare, as we have, and then we loop into this wiring centre to feed it, and then we've got the switch line coming back from the thermostats and the pump live coming back as well, which again we've taken through into this Wago wiring centre. So we just need to sort this out. We've got a hot water zone valve, a heating stone valve, we've got a tank stat, and we've got our power in. There is going to be a Nest added into this, but the plumber and the customer hadn't sorted that, so we need to get one and pop that into the system as well. But we're just going to get the wiring centre taken along far enough, ready to sort that out tomorrow. I don't know what all the wet system does and works. They've not finished it yet, so there's some finishing up for them guys to do. There is a backup element on down here as well, just in case the Tepeo boiler doesn't quite cut the mustard from time to time. So you see we've got our S-plan wiring diagram that we're roughly going to work from. It's slightly different because of the way this needs to wire together with the comms box or the installer board. So we're just going to slowly work through that, make sure it all goes together, and hopefully we get that sorted. As I say, we've got the Nest thermostat to add on as well. So that's the wiring centre roughly dressed away. We are going to neaten it up once we've got the Nest on, but just to show you, this is the kind of S-plan that we followed. It is a little bit different just because of the way the Nest wires in, and also this electric boiler. The pump's separate to it, and it needs a pump live feed coming back to this controller, and also a switch live feed from the thermostat, which makes it a little bit different, but it is largely as is. I've renumbered these because the terminal spaces in the way they were numbered and laid out weren't big enough off this chart. So you can see these are numbered 1 for your earth, 2, 3, 4, 5 and so forth. So we've got our power cable coming in, we've got the hot water zone valve, we've got the pump, we've got the heating zone valve, and we've got the tank thermostat. So you can see on number 9 here, you've got your 2 oranges, and then we've got the line coming off the hot water stat, and also the grey coming off the pump, which is its return on there. So if we go on to 9 here, you can see you've got your 2 oranges, we've got the pump line, which is on there, and then we've got the boiler. Sorry, that's what this grey is, that's the boiler pump live going back to here. So that's what that is, and that kind of just mirrors around those. So on this for the Nest, we've got the heating trigger, we've got the hot water trigger, and then we'll also need to take a line, neutral and an earth over to it as well. So we've got our line up here with the 2 greys on the room stats, sorry, on the motorised valves. So you can see that there, and then it also takes the line over to the heating controller along with the neutral. The only ones you're really missing is here, number 2, where it's coming off the separate programmer to the room star. Obviously that's all in one with the Nest, so there's no number 2 on there. But nice little cover to go on, little diagram on the inside. As I say, we'll neaten these up. We've got the neutrals and the earths all neatened away already. Once we finally dress these in and we can take these little tags off, we'll do that too. And it hopefully gives the next person a fighting chance who comes along to do some maintenance on it. And it'll be interesting to see how all this comes together. So we'll close this up now, but we've got our line, neutral and earth in, a little redundant cable in here, because we thought there needed to be a spare for these controls, but it takes it back from the Tepeo boiler, and then it comes into this gubbins, does all this stuff. We've got an immersion backup on the tank as well, and it's neaten all these cables up, have a little tidy out, and that's that done as a little extra job. Bit of cabling to neaten up. We have got that CT link cable, but there's no CT that's come with the kit. The plumbers pulled the blank when we asked them about it. The customer doesn't know about it, so I don't know if this can monitor for export. We'll have to do some further investigation on that, because other ones we've installed have been able to do that. Otherwise it's not going to know that there's spare electricity to do whatever it needs to do. Perhaps that needs to tie in with the element on the immersion rather than through the boiler, or maybe it can speak to the GivEnergy system. I don't know. So you can see the Nest is all closed up and wired in as well. We've left the cables loose for now because the plumbers need to come and commission the system. There's no pressure, and they've got the feed and returns all open at either end, so I'm not sure what's going on there, but we've left that in a wired state, so at least it's all connected and functional.
The wiring's loose in case they need to move anything and adjust stuff. We didn't want to go making final connections in terms of securing all the cables until we were sure of that. Just to give them the flexibility of adjustment should they need it. But there's the Nest receiver. There's obviously the Nest thermostat, which goes and lives out in the wider install. And that should all swing together when it is operational. We've also popped some smoke alarms in on this one. So the guys have recorded me this content out on site. But you can see we've got the ICO with a remote link over to the garage. So this one's at the bottom of the stairs, which will be audible from the bedrooms, and the customer's renovating the property, so I can add more of those in as they go. Out in the garage, we've got one up near the battery system, so that's going to link into the house and alarm if there is an issue. Down here, you can see that sat up there and ready to go. As the customer renovates, they can pop more smoke alarms in. We didn't want to leave it without anything. However, it is essentially a building site in the house, and these things are susceptible to damage from dust. So it's one of those where it's a trade-off. We know the customer's going to be living in here while they are doing some of the renovations, and we wanted to leave them as safe as practicable. So you can see that tucked away in the garage there. And apologies on the quality of the video, but this is recording the guys have done on their phones out on site. And you can see again the smoke alarm. We'll test it. Hopefully you can hear that running away in the background. And that is that, tucked away, ready and done.
Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed seeing this system coming together. Huge thanks to our customer Simon for looking after us with snacks and drinks through the week. We'll be back here later on to pop some solar up on the roof, and we'll show you that as well when we get to that stage. But for now, the customer's happily running with overnight low cost electrical energy and also able to charge their van up without having to use a granny charger. So win-win. Don't forget, if you're a customer and you're looking for a system of your own, please do get in touch with us. There's details in the description where you can go off and do so, and otherwise we'll see you on the next one.